Hi, it's Katrina! Giant talking catfish. Native to the Amazon River Basin, the giant talking catfish, also called the giant Raphael catfish, is typically found in tributaries, creeks, and swamps. Its unique black and yellow color pattern makes it stand out a lot compared to other types of catfish, and almost doesn't even look real. It's maybe not the most beautiful fish species on Earth, but it's pretty bizarre. Why are they called the talking catfish, you ask? Good question. It's because they can produce sounds by locking their spiny pectoral fins into their sockets, grinding them against the inner portion of the socket, and resonating their swim bladder using a muscle in the back of their skull to produce a deep clicking sound. Pretty cool, huh? Giant talking catfish are slow growing, typically reaching up to 2 feet long and weighing as much as 10 pounds by adulthood. The largest known recorded specimens found in the Amazon, Essequibo and Tocantins river systems, were as much as 28 inches long. Their coloring makes them very popular in the aquarium trade, and they will eat pretty much everything. Despite their size, giant talking catfish can be described as gentle giants. They tend to ignore other fish and go about their business, feeding mainly on crustaceans. These bottom dwellers are also heavily armored, which protects them from aggressive species. So if you are in the Amazon and catch this yellow and black beast, don't worry, it's actually a catfish. There are much scarier things to look out for. Alien sea beast. While fishing in Krabi province in southern Thailand late last year, 41-year-old Desha Srichai captured a creepy creature with 20 long jet black legs, causing him to throw his net in horror. At first glance, he thought the specimen was a twig, but when he saw it moving, he panicked. Having never seen anything like it before, Desha told the press that he was so disgusted he considered burning the alien-like creature, but he took his phone out and filmed it instead, in the hopes of receiving help identifying it. Geez, calm down, right? Why would you just see something and then burn it? What the heck? After the initial shock wore off, Desha rethought his initial urge to kill the strange life form and used a stick to push it back into the river from a safe distance. His friends told him that it was most likely a black feather star, a bottom-dwelling marine species that can regrow severed tentacles much like its relatives from the crinoid group of animals that includes sea stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. Unlike many of its relatives, the black feather star does not have a stalk connecting it to the sea floor. Despite its terrifying appearance, it's rather harmless to humans, feeding mostly on plankton. All of those weird appendages and feathers help it catch its food. But this apparently didn't matter to Desha, who said that he hopes he never catches one again. Longnosed Chimera. Gary Goodyear, a Newfoundland and Labrador-based fisherman, was utterly shocked last year when his crew caught a specimen he didn't recognize while fishing for turbot in Bonavista Bay. Hailed up in the boat's trawler net from over 2,600 feet below the water's surface, the nearly 1-meter dead fish had a rubber-like nose and wing-like appendages, according to Goodyear, who spoke with CBC about the strangest catch of his career. The perplexed angler posted photos of the creature on Facebook in hopes that someone could identify it and ultimately determined that it was likely a long-nosed chimera. Related to sharks, rays, and skates, there are 8 known species of chimera. These ancient cartilaginous deep-dwelling fish are typically found between 200 and 1,000 meters underwater and are rarely seen or caught by humans. Long-nosed chimeras have a long, pointy snout and neon green eyes, giving them a monstrous appearance, according to Carolyn Meary, a marine biologist with the Newfoundland and Labrador Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Goodyear was also glad that nothing bad happened to him or his crew while they handled the fish. Unaware that the species has a venomous spine, nobody thought twice about touching it with their bare hands. Meary explained that the fish Goodyear accidentally captured likely died while being hauled to the surface due to pressure changes in the water, and agreed that Goodyear and his crew were lucky the fish was dead, because it could have caused serious injury by flailing around had it been alive. Real-life sea monster. After spending 45 minutes wrestling with his fishing line earlier this year, fisherman Nate Isaac reeled in what social media users described as a real-life sea monster while fishing in the Bering Sea off Alaska's Akutan Island. With a gaping mouth and a gigantic jaw equipped with razor-sharp teeth, the enormous prehistoric-looking creature indeed looked like something from someone's worst nightmare, or perhaps even another planet. While the sight of the creepy specimen was a first for many, Isaac told Lad Bible that he had seen it before. Knowing from past experience that they bite very hard, He and his crew were extremely cautious in their handling of it. Photos he posted on social media show that the demonic-looking fish measured around half his height. Identified as a wolf eel, the species can actually grow much larger than the one Isaac caught, reaching up to 7 feet long and weighing as much as 41 pounds. These homely creatures lurk throughout the North Pacific, where they use their powerful jaws to crush prey and mate for life in monogamous pairs. Isaac releases everything he catches back into the water, and the real-life sea monster was no exception. Do you enjoy going fishing? Have you ever found a strange animal in the water? Let me know in the comments below. And I want to give a big shout out to Grayson N. and Brandon Gordon. Thanks so much for spending time with us and for supporting this channel. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join us, because why not? Fish with human teeth. While fishing off the Melbourne, Florida coast earlier this year, fisherman Paul Lohr caught a strange-looking specimen bearing a zebra-like design and equipped with eerily humanoid teeth arranged in rows of 2 or 3. The 33-year-old angler described the creature's body as like a snapper-type fish, very compact but meaty. He also mentioned that it had a very strong bite power, not enough to take a finger, but enough to make you never go near the teeth again. Despite its unusual appearance, the fish is not rare. Known as a sheep's head fish, it's often found off the Gulf and Atlantic coast in the United States, but is common throughout North America, including as far north as Cape Cod in Massachusetts. The species inspired the name of the Sheep's Head Bay neighborhood in Brooklyn, where it once populated the waters off the eastern coast of Coney Island. The sheep's head fish feeds mainly on crustaceans, using its teeth to crush barnacles, clamshells, and crab shells. Lohr explained that its gills act like a filter, expelling shell fragments that the creature consumes. He added that the species' diet gives its meat a crab-like taste, earning it the nickname the poor man's crab in his area. The sheep's head fish grows to around 30 inches long, but even smaller specimens are incredibly strong. As soon as one gets hooked on a fishing line, they swim sideways with a lot of force, making them difficult to reel in. Lobster-shrimp hybrid? During what was meant to be an ordinary fishing trip in Fort Pierce, Florida, fisherman Steve Bargeron looked on in shock and amusement as a nearby couple reeled in what he described as an alien creature that looked like an oversized cross between a lobster and a shrimp. He snapped a few photos of the flailing animal before the couple, who had no interest in keeping the creature, tossed it back into the water. Bargeron passed the pictures on to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, which posted the images on its Facebook page. Ray Caldwell, a professor of integrative biology at the University of California, Berkeley, instantly identified the critter as a mantis shrimp. Also known as a stomatopod, the creature is actually rather common in Floridian waters. People just don't see them very often because they rarely emerge from their burrows on the sea floor, making the catch unique in its own right. Speaking with Live Science, Caldwell explained that the species is equipped with prominent claws that it uses to stab or mash its prey, depending on the species. Mantis shrimp can live for up to 30 years and grow up to a foot long. Bargeron claimed that the specimen he witnessed was around 18 inches long, but admitted that he did not measure it. Caldwell said that this was unlikely, but that it was entirely possible that the creature looked much bigger in the pictures, or because its claws were extended. Mutant Shark. After accidentally capturing a pregnant female shark in their trawler net off the Indonesian coast earlier this year, fisherman Abdullah Nurin and his brother cut her open and received the shock of a lifetime. 2 of the unborn pups appeared normal, but the third had eerily human-like facial features and large, round, cartoonish eyes. The deformed shark pup likely had a congenital defect called cyclopia, according to marine conservation biologist Dr. David Schiffman, who cautioned against Googling the condition while eating. Just a heads up. He explained in a Twitter post that cyclopia occurs when both of a creature's eyes are fused to one orbit. Caught near the East Nusa Tenggara province, the mutant shark attracted a throng of curious visitors, including Nurin's neighbors, who reportedly offered to buy the specimen from him. Instead, he kept it for himself with plans to preserve it as a good luck charm. Eyeless monster. Australia has no shortage of bizarre wildlife, but every now and then a species stands out as even stranger than the rest. This was certainly the case in early 2019, when a group of anglers witnessed the capture of a nightmarish eyeless specimen with razor-sharp teeth in the secluded Mary River near Kakadu National Park in Australia's Northern Territory. T. Hogan, who reeled in the freaky fish, described the 6-inch-long creature as purpley brown with a really weird head in an interview with ABC Australia, adding that it reminded her of the 1979 horror movie Alien, during which a hideous monstrosity comes out of actress Sigourney Weaver's stomach. Adding to the strangeness of the situation, the fish reportedly didn't move at all while being handled. It was probably in shock. As it turned out, the creature was not an alien, but a member of a group called eel gobies, or worm gobies. Speaking with the Daily Mail, fish identification expert Morgan Grant explained that there are several species present in Australia's brackish and freshwater estuaries, and that they have poorly developed eyes that are often covered in skin, because eyesight is essentially useless in the murky waters. This forces the marine animals to rely primarily on their sense of touch to catch prey. He added that the fish have extremely sharp and powerful teeth to make up for what they lack in eyesight. Translucent shrimp-like blob. While fishing with his 2 sons over 40 miles off the Kari Kari Peninsula of New Zealand's North Island in 2014, Stuart Fraser spotted a translucent shrimp-like creature floating near the water's surface. Curious as to what it was, he grabbed hold of it and posed for a few pictures to show his fisherman friends. The specimen was completely see-through, minus a small orange blob inside its body. Fraser described it as scaly but firm and jelly-like to the touch. Nobody he knew was able to identify it, leaving everyone baffled. Mail Online got to the bottom of the mystery with the help of staff members at the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth, UK, who identified the creature as a salpa majore. Salps somewhat resemble jellyfish, but are more closely related to vertebrates, according to National Marine Aquarium Director Paul Cox. They have gills and a heart, and their bodies are encased in a sac-like structure with 2 openings, one on each end, that water pumps through, propelling the creatures through the water. Meanwhile, filters passively collect nutrients from algae and phytoplankton. Little is known about these bizarre animals, which are found mainly throughout the Southern Ocean, travel in large chains, and grow up to 10 inches long. Salps are unique because they function individually and as part of a larger organism. They have no defense against predators, proving that power doesn't always come in numbers, and their clear appearance serves as a form of camouflage that helps them to avoid becoming another animal's next meal. Living fossil. Back in 2007, Indonesian fisherman Justinus Lahama and his son caught an ancient-looking fish in the waters off North Sulawesi. They took the 4.3-foot-long, 112-pound creature home and kept it there until a neighbor told them that it was a rare species, prompting the pair to return it to the sea. Unfortunately, the fish died after spending 17 hours in a quarantine pool. It was identified as a coelacanth, a prehistoric species that first appeared on the fossil record around 350 million years ago, and that scientists long believed went extinct along with the dinosaurs around 65 million years ago. This belief was turned on its head in 1938, when a living specimen was discovered off the eastern coast of South Africa. Today, there are only 2 known coelacanth species, and both can live for 60 years or more. They can grow over 2 meters long and weigh around 90 kilograms. The fish that Lahama caught was only the second coelacanth to be captured in Asia. The first was caught in 1998, also off the North Sulawesi coast. Scientists were perplexed by this, and by the fact that Lahama's catch survived for 17 hours, since it's commonly understood that coelacanths can only survive for up to 2 hours outside their habitat. But it's not surprising that there's a lot we don't know about these fish, considering the fact that their existence was unknown to us until relatively recently. Mysterious sea dragon. Researchers in England have discovered an aquatic reptile that lived 150 million years ago. Found in a late Jurassic deep marine deposit in Dorset, along the English Channel coastline, it was recently identified as a new species from the ichthyosaur group. Dubbed Thalassodracoetkezi, the ancient sea monster is quite unique, enough to warrant being classified as a new genus and species, according to a recently published study. Ichthyosaurs have been studied for the last 200 years in England, making discoveries of new species exceedingly rare. As soon as the team saw it, they knew it was special. Researchers spent about a year comparing the specimen to other ichthyosaurs, and were excited when they did not match it to any of them. They determined that the small-finned creature was about 6 feet long. It had an extremely deep rib cage, which likely gave it a barrel-like body, making room for large lungs. This means that it could probably dive very deep below the water's surface. The animal's large eyes may have helped it see in the dark, also suggesting that it was a deep diver, or perhaps nocturnal. Because of T. etkesi's distinctive body shape, it likely swam differently from other ichthyosaurs. It also had hundreds of tiny, smooth teeth that were ideal for eating squid and small fish, unlike other ichthyosaurs, which generally had large, sharp teeth. The next step is for scientists to further study the animal's biology to better understand its habits and behaviors. It was definitely doing something different. Ichthyosaurs started out as lizard-like land animals and eventually adapted to marine life and transitioned into the shark and dolphin-like creatures found in fossils. The largest known ichthyosaurs were found in North America and had skulls measuring up to 16 feet long. The Monkeydactyl. Researchers recently identified what may be the earliest known animal with opposable thumbs. It is a giant flying reptile with thumbs. Nicknamed the Monkeydactyl and scientifically named Cunpengopterus antipolycatus, yeah, don't quote me on that. The 160 million-year-old fossilized pterosaur was discovered in the ancient Tiaojishan forest in China. It had a small body with an approximate wingspan of 33.5 inches. Using 3D imaging and X-ray technology, an international team of researchers determined that the species' opposable thumbs likely made it well-suited for climbing and grasping objects, and possibly enabled it to live high up in the trees. By comparing the specimen with other pterosaurs, the team concluded that the Monkeydactyl had the right build for climbing. Because not all pterosaurs had opposable thumbs or could climb, these advantageous characteristics would have reduced competition for the Monkeydactyl. See, you remember this name, don't you? What's the scientific name again? But not all experts necessarily agree with the findings. Speaking with Gizmodo, paleontologist Kevin Padian pointed out that having opposable thumbs is not a guaranteed indicator of a tree-dwelling species, citing the example that raccoons have this trait but don't always live in trees. Now scientists are on the lookout for a better preserved fossil to see just what Monkeydactyl was up to. Godzilla Shark. A 300 million-year-old fossil famously known as the Godzilla Shark finally has a scientific name 9 years after it was discovered in New Mexico's Manzano Mountains. It has 12 rows of sharp teeth and 2.5-foot-tall fin spines. Measuring about 6.7 feet long, the creature is now formally called Dracopristis hoffmannorum, or Hoffman's dragon shark, named after the family who owns the land it was discovered on. It might sound unusual for a shark to be discovered in the mountains of one of the country's driest regions, but sea levels were much higher back when the Godzilla shark existed, and what is now New Mexico was submerged beneath a seaway that extended into North America. Scientists believe the species dwelled in shallow coastal waters, feasting on crustaceans and fish. Its teeth were shorter than those of modern sharks, measuring roughly 0.8 inches or 2 centimeters long, and were better suited for grasping and crushing rather than piercing the animal's prey, in the words of John Paul Hodnett, who discovered the fossil as a graduate student in 2013. The specimen represents one of the most complete fossilized skeletons ever found among its evolutionary branch, which split from the modern shark lineage around 390 million years ago. It's believed that the Godzilla shark went extinct roughly 60 million years later. Ice Age Horse. Workers who were recently hired to build a pool in Las Vegas were shocked to find a collection of bones buried about 4 or 5 feet deep on the property. Police were summoned to the scene, where they established that the bones weren't human, and told homeowner Matt Perkins that the artifacts were more or less his problem to deal with. Relieved that the bones weren't human, but curious about what animal they did belong to, Perkins had local paleontologist Joshua Bond of the Nevada Science Center take a look. Bond told CNN that the fossilized remains are a prehistoric horse dating back an estimated 14,000 years to the last ice age. Didn't expect that in Las Vegas, did you? Researchers will perform tests to determine its precise age and perhaps even its species. Its bones were still connected the way they were when the horse was alive, which he said is rare, and indicates that its remains were buried quickly after its death, protecting the corpse from scavengers. The horse lived alongside extinct creatures like mammoths, camels, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and more. Ironically, Perkins and his husband had joked before the discovery about the possibility of the workers digging up a dinosaur. Not quite a dino, but still pretty cool. The couple put the pool's construction on hold so researchers could collect, study, and display the horse to the public. What would you do if you found bones in your backyard? Let me know in the comments below. Frog-faced ancient turtle. Between 72 and 66 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period, an ancient turtle with a face like a frog sucked up its prey. It had no teeth, like all modern turtles, a flattened skull, and poorly developed upper and lower jaw. But it did have a large tongue bone, which made it a great suction feeder. It lived in what is now the island nation of Madagascar. As a suction feeder, it did not use its jaws to process food, but instead ate small-bodied living prey whole. Dubbed Sahonoculus melacavava, the prehistoric species is what paleontologist Dr. David Krauss called a stunning example of evolution in isolation. Krauss explained that the turtle evolved by itself on Madagascar for over 20 million years, like a multitude of other extinct species that have been discovered there. A fossilized specimen found in 2015 in northern Madagascar is, as Krauss put it, by far the best preserved late Cretaceous turtle among the southern continents. The team was actually looking for dinosaurs and crocodiles, but as an extra bonus, they found this turtle shell, almost entirely intact. In a place known for its unique wildlife due to its isolation from the rest of the planet, the fossil shows that animals that lived in Madagascar tens of millions of years ago were already very distinct from creatures in other parts of the world. At the same time, the discovery also sheds light on a phenomenon called convergent evolution, when different animals independently evolve similar traits to adapt to their surroundings. Burrowing mammal ancestors. Around 120 million years ago, two distantly related ancestors of modern-day mammals lived in what is now northeastern China. Recently identified as the earliest known scratch diggers in the ancient Jehol biota ecosystem, these burrowing creatures independently evolved similar traits to support their lifestyle. They were mammal-like, but weren't quite mammals yet. A big question for scientists is why animals dig into the soil and live underground. There are many guesses like protection against predators and help maintaining a comfortable temperature. The new species lived sometime between 145 million and 100 million years ago during the early Cretaceous. They were equipped with specialized traits for burrowing, including short limbs, a short tail, and strong forelimbs with well-developed hands. One is a tritylodonted, or a mammal-like lizard named Phaseomanus sinensis. Measuring about a foot long, it had an elongated spine made up of 38 vertebrae, 12 more than the 26 that typical modern mammals have. The other specimen, dubbed Juconodon kenai, is around 7 inches long and is a distant cousin of modern placental mammals and marsupials, known as a Eutriconodonton. It had 26 vertebrae, also making it longer than most mammals. Scientists believe that a genetic mutation that occurs during embryonic development is responsible for the animal's elongated spines. This is known to occur in some modern-day mammals, including elephants, manatees, and hyraxes. First nocturnal dinosaur. Around 65 million years ago, in the deserts of what is now Mongolia, lived a strange genus of theropod dinosaurs called Shuvuya, hailing from the group that gave rise to modern-day birds. There is only one known Shuvuya species, Shuvuya deserti, which means desert bird. It was about half the size of a chicken, with long legs, a fragile skull, and powerful arms equipped with single claws. While the desert bird's existence is not a new discovery, researchers recently learned through a new study that it may have been the first dinosaur to hunt at night. That's a huge advantage. After one team member noticed that the Shuvuya's lagana, an organ that processes hearing, was unusually long, the scientists compared the species with CT scans of around 100 living birds and extinct dinosaurs. They also measured each species' scleral rings, which are the bones surrounding the pupils, to determine which animals were most likely to have operated in low light. Much to their surprise, the barn owl, a nocturnal species with exceptional hearing, was the only creature with a comparably long lagana to the Shuvuya. Additionally, the Shuvuya's scleral ring was large in diameter, meaning it let in a lot of light, and perhaps suited the animal to hunting in the dark. The team believes that the creature's remarkable hearing helped it locate burrowing insects and small mammals, then seized its prey by digging with one of its two large singular claws. These traits, including nocturnal activity, digging ability, and long hind limbs, are also seen in modern-day desert animals. Throughout the study, the team also learned that most dinosaurs were primarily daytime creatures, and that predatory dinosaurs typically had good hearing compared to most birds, while herbivorous dinosaurs usually had poor hearing compared to most birds. New saber-toothed cat. North America was once home to massive creatures that would seem wildly out of place today, including one of the largest cats that ever lived. The newly identified saber-toothed species roamed the continent between 9 and 5 million years ago, hunting rhinos and bison. Several years ago, a graduate student rediscovered the big cat's massive upper arm bone at the University of Oregon Museum of Natural and Cultural History, leaving experts perplexed about what species it belonged to. A years-long effort to solve the mystery ensued, culminating in a collection of 7 previously uncategorized fossil specimens that were used to describe the new species. Researchers determined that the cat, dubbed, okay, are you guys ready? Machairodus lahaishapup, was closely related to the Smilodon, an ancient saber-toothed species that also once roamed North America. But it was much larger than the Smilodon, weighing up to 900 pounds, and was capable of routinely killing prey that weighed as much as 6,000 pounds. Throughout the study, the team discovered numerous other bones belonging to the species in collections throughout western North America, with the largest leg bone measuring 18 inches long. To give you an idea of how big this cat was, a modern adult male lion's humerus is around 13 inches long. While the identification of the species is a landmark discovery in terms of our understanding of prehistoric megafauna, scientists are still struggling to untangle the evolution of ancient saber-toothed cats and determine how they were related. Duckbilled dinosaur. Scientists recently identified a new genus and species of hadrosaur, or duck-billed dinosaur, marking a step forward in their attempts to better understand this large family of herbivorous dinosaurs who roamed the Earth during the Cretaceous period. Discovered in 2004 on a small island off Japan's southern shore, this species was finally named this year in a new study. Paleontologist Yoshitsugu Kobayashi told Science Alert that it's one of only 2 late Cretaceous dinosaurs ever discovered in Japan, with the other being the Kamuyasaurus, which was identified in 2019 after being discovered on the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido. Before then, scientists had no idea what dinosaurs lived in Japan during that time. The Amatosaurus had a duck-billed snout with multiple rows of blunt teeth that it used for chewing plants, but unlike other hadrosaurs, its teeth were not easily expendable. Usually, hadrosaurs' teeth fell out easily and were replaced with new teeth. Instead, the Amatosaurus had tough teeth that did not appear to fall out or grow back easily, indicating that it had a different diet from mainland hadrosaurs. The creature's skeletal structure was also different from other known species, falling somewhere in the transition between being a 4-legged and 2-legged walker. In evolutionary terms, this suggests that the Amatosaurus originated in Asia. Discoveries like this are helping to put together the migration patterns of hadrosaurs, who scientists previously believed migrated from North America to Asia. More specifically, the Amatosaurus upends this theory by suggesting that hadrosaurs in fact moved from Asia to North America. Dinosaur age mammal. The Cerro Guido region of Chilean Patagonia is a hotbed of fossils belonging to dinosaurs and other prehistoric species from Antarctica and the Americas that migrated through the area millions of years ago. Earlier this year, scientists announced the discovery of a jaw with 5 teeth, representing a previously unknown mammal that lived in Cerro Guido between 72 and 74 million years ago, near the end of the Mesozoic era, and just a few million years before the dinosaurs went extinct. The specimen, named Oritherium tsen, is the second oldest known mammal ever found in Chile. It somewhat resembled a skunk. Based on its teeth, it was probably omnivorous, feeding on both plants and animals. Researchers believe it was related to other mammals found in Patagonia. This groundbreaking discovery is a potential game changer when it comes to scientists' understanding of the evolution of animals during the age of the dinosaurs, according to paleontologist Alexander Vargas, who worked on the project. FBI Mummy Mystery. In 2009, the Boston Museum of Fine Arts displayed some amazing artifacts recovered from an Egyptian tomb. It was excavated nearly 100 years earlier from a site in Deir el-Bersha, and everything had been sitting in storage. One of their most prized relics was an item labeled 10A. Well, this is not that exciting. 10A was a mummified severed head. But whose was it? Thanks to the FBI, they have now been able to learn the identity of the 4,000-year-old head. It was originally found in a tomb that belonged to a local governor from the Middle Kingdom. The governor was buried with his wife, but archaeologists didn't know whether the head belonged to the governor himself or his wife. They needed extra help, so they enlisted the FBI to help them solve the case. A forensics lab took a molar extracted from the mummy's head, with veteran DNA analyst and forensic scientist Odile Laurel helping out. Odile has already recovered DNA from victims of the Titanic, 2 children from the murdered Romanov family, as well as ancient cave bears. With her help, they were able to identify strands of DNA inside the tooth. According to Odile's findings, the skull belonged to the male governor. To confirm the results, the FBI team sent samples to Harvard and the Department of Homeland Security for further testing. And while this might not seem like that big of a deal, it was one of the first times that proper DNA was collected from an Egyptian mummy. This means that in the future, archaeologists will be able to better identify the ancient corpses they find inside coffins. However, the mystery continues because there were actually 2 governors with the same name that ruled the same area in ancient Egypt, so we may never know exactly who it belonged to. Black Sam Bellamy. Black Sam Bellamy was an English sailor who turned into a pirate. He left England as a teenager, sailed for the British Navy, and came up with plans in 1715 to gather a crew and travel around the Caribbean Sea. Black Sam wanted to plunder Spanish treasure and became extremely successful. He attacked and robbed at least 45 ships throughout his career and has been labeled the Robin Hood of the sea. He stole from the rich, and he employed former slaves on his ship and treated them as equals, which was unheard of for the time. But before he could ever settle down, his ship the Whydah got caught in a storm near Cape Cod and sank, taking down Sam Bellamy, his entire crew, and all of his treasure. The body of Sam Bellamy was never found. The Whydah was first discovered off the coast of Cape Cod in 1982, but it wasn't until now, thanks to new technology, that archaeologists actually discovered 6 skeletons in the wreckage of Black Sam's ship. Finding skeletons underwater is extremely rare. One of the skeletons could be the infamous pirate himself. The bones were discovered inside the wreckage, stuck inside of concretions, or solid chunks of matter, that had accumulated since the ship sunk. Archaeologists are still working to remove the pirate bones from the concretions and do whatever DNA tests are necessary to find out who they were. If Sam Bellamy is indeed found, he will be buried in his local graveyard in Massachusetts. The Maya Dog Trade. A new study of the bones and teeth from animals uncovered at ancient Maya sites in Guatemala have revealed some of the earliest evidence of a dog trade in the Americas. It turns out that the Maya may have been some of the first trading breeders in the dog world, managing, raising, and trading dogs. Not only that, but the bones and teeth analyzed from the 3,000-year-old archaeological site have shown evidence of animal sacrifice, with some archaeologists saying sacrificing captive animals could have played a crucial role in how Maya society developed. The truth is that animal domestication has played a huge role in human society for the past 9,000 years, but this was mostly in Asia and Europe, where cultures began raising sheep and pigs thousands of years ago. They didn't really do that in Mesoamerica. They cultivated crops, but didn't domesticate that many animals. According to National Geographic, researchers took the remains of dogs and cats excavated at Ceibal in Guatemala, dated back to between 700 and 350 BC, and found evidence of a corn-based diet in the animals. They even found the remains of what they believed to be a jaguar, and saw that it too had a corn-based diet. What this means is that the Maya were raising animals for the purpose of ceremonial activities. Even though the Maya weren't using animals as part of their agriculture, they were still raising them, only for ceremonial use. Instead of raising chickens to eat, they raised dogs and big cats to sacrifice. The Coffin Birth. In one of the most shocking archaeological discoveries of all time, a pregnant woman was found to have given birth while inside of a medieval grave. It happened in either the 7th or 8th century, when a pregnant woman died and was buried in the small Italian town of Imola. Back then, and throughout history, death during pregnancy or childbirth was quite common. It happened all the time. But when her grave was uncovered in 2002 and excavated by archaeologists, they found a small pile of little bones by her legs. They later identified these bones as the remains of her fetus. The baby was born after she had died. Analysis by scientists working with the University of Bologna determined the woman was between 25 and 35 and in her 38th week of gestation. She was just 2 weeks shy of coming to term, but when she died, she was buried. The baby was born anyway after death, an extremely rare occurrence of what scientists call post-mortem fetal extrusion, also known as coffin birth. Even more shocking is that a small hole was found in the woman's skull. Researchers concluded that she had been given a crude surgical procedure called a trepanation. This type of surgery started being performed back in the Neolithic era and was believed to relieve all kinds of health problems, from fevers to convulsions. The woman probably died from the surgery or whatever illness she may have had before giving birth in her coffin. Theopetra Cave. The Theopetra Cave was occupied by human beings 130,000 years ago. It's an amazing archaeological site located in the region of Meteora, Greece. There have been many archaeological excavations done here throughout the years. Experts have discovered physical evidence of uninterrupted human habitation all the way from the Middle Paleolithic to the end of the Neolithic. In other words, people lived inside of this cave while evolving from primitive cavemen to more advanced Neanderthals. Archaeological excavations began in 1987 and went on until 2007, with the project being directed by Dr. Nina Kaya-Parisi Apostolica. When excavations first began, the cave was being used by sheep herders. The most shocking thing discovered inside Theopetra Cave is what scientists are still calling the oldest wall in the world. Scientists were able to date the wall back 23,000 years. That coincides with the last glacial age. The wall was probably built by the early inhabitants of the cave out of mud and rock to keep out the cold. The wall is now recognized as potentially the oldest structure built by human hands in the world. What makes this exceptionally interesting is that it took over 100,000 years of continuous human occupation for someone to finally build a wall inside the cave to keep out the cold. We are literally looking at the slow evolution of our own species inside of the Theopetra Cave. Iron Age Horde. One of the coolest Iron Age hoards ever discovered came out of Schmallenberg, Germany. The Walburg-Wilsenberg hill fort dates back to 300 BC, a time when the area was ruled by Iron Age pre-Romans. Today, there is not much left of the ancient hill fort other than traces of raised embankments and a few crumbling stone and wood fortifications. Studies in the 1950s unearthed a trove of fascinating Iron Age weapons, including spear tips and lance tips, and swords that had been deliberately bent. A more recent discovery was made by a local history researcher named Matthias Dickhaus. Matthias conducted a survey with a metal detector and found over 100 fragments of spears and shields, along with tools and harnesses for horses. And don't forget, more bent swords. The evidence has pointed to a great battle unfolding over 2,000 years ago in the area. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the battlefield has been that the swords found here were bent on purpose. And archaeologists are now saying it was probably the victors of the battle who destroyed the weapons as a kind of last humiliation to the defeated enemy. It was an easy way to exhibit the inferiority of their opponents. However, nobody actually knows who fought the battle. There hasn't been any concrete evidence to say which culture was on which side, who walked away victorious, or just what in the world the fight had been about in the first place. Ape Brains. According to a new study published in the journal Science, early humans had brains just like great apes. The study found that humans only evolved our advanced thinking skills about 1.5 million years ago. What that means is that 1 million years after the Homo genus came to be, and the first ever Homo erectus left Africa, we developed our big, juicy brains. But for those first million years, the first Homo genus had brains just like apes. These findings came thanks to fossilized endocasts of the region inside the skull that houses the human brain. Human brains don't actually fossilize, so the only way to check out an ancient human brain is to look at the imprint left over inside of the skull. Scientists had to look at the skulls of great apes and then compare them to the fossilized remains of 40 ancient human skulls from around the world. According to Live Science, the finding overturns a previously held view that humans' frontal lobe, the part of the brain that processes complex cognitive tasks, including social thought, tool use, and language, developed at the transition from Australopithecus to Homo, which happened roughly 2.8 million to 2.5 million years ago. With the help of new and improved computed tomography scans, also known as CT scans, scientists and paleontologists were able to image the interior of fossilized skulls belonging to our very ancient ancestors. The results showed that Homo erectus had the same frontal lobe as a modern ape. Rare medieval knife. A metal detectorist in Scotland got very lucky when he made a shocking discovery. He stumbled upon a medieval knife still in its original sheath. Craig Johnstone was out in the woods near Edinburgh exploring. He had researched the area and discovered that where he found the medieval knife was likely used as an escape route from a battle that happened in 1666 as part of a rebellion by Scottish Covenanters, who didn't like the religious policies of Charles II. When the Scottish Covenanters advanced on Edinburgh, they were ambushed and defeated, causing many of the rebels to run away. One of those defeated rebels probably dropped his knife, and there it stayed hidden under the dirt for over 300 years before Craig found it. The knife was beautifully decorated and was quite a rare find. It was stuck inside the scabbard, covered in mud, and Craig said that he first thought it was the top of a railing. Scottish law says that any historical find by a metal detectorist must be presented to the authorities, so that's what Craig did. He took the knife to an archaeologist at the Midlothian Council, who informed him how to pull the blade from its scabbard without damaging it. Craig had to put the knife in the oven with the door open on low temperature to cook the years of mud off the knife. Then he was able to open it. He said it was like an Excalibur moment, pulling out the little handle of the sharp ancient knife. Japanese armor. Workers paving a road near a farm in Japan accidentally stumbled upon an underground tomb dating back 1,500 years. Archaeologists found a huge stone coffin, some creepy human remains, and a piece of armor in surprisingly good condition. According to Archaeology News Network, the remains probably belonged to a local chieftain, while the armor, which was a single breastplate, is known as a tanko. The armor could have been a gift from the imperial court in Yamato. The tomb itself probably belonged to a powerful leader in the region with direct ties to the Yamato imperial court. The grave dates back to the Kofun period of Japan, between the 3rd and 7th century. Along with the armor and the single skeleton, archaeologists also found at least 20 burial accessories, more than in any other rock tomb found throughout the region. Emerald Mining Network. New archaeological excavations in the Egyptian Eastern Desert have revealed some pretty shocking finds. The region has been known as a hotspot for emerald mines from the Roman era for the last century. But up until 2018, there hadn't been a whole lot of excavating going on here. Then, between 2018 and 2020, archaeologists focused on the main site of Sikite, where they found some pretty cool artifacts. One of the first structures to be investigated is what archaeologists believe was a type of administrative building, once used as a temple back between the 1st and 5th centuries. Researchers found 19 coins and other items such as incense burners and curious figurines that suggest the temple had been used in ritual religious ceremonies. What's really interesting is that the temple was part of a larger complex used in mining emeralds thousands of years ago. The finds have confirmed for archaeologists the significance that religion played in small mining settlements. So far, the Roman site in Sikite has yielded the highest concentration of cult spaces inside of an ancient mine. However, researchers are still unsure why the Romans gave up control of the area. There is still more work to be done if archaeologists want to uncover the full story of Rome's extraction and commercialization of Egyptian emeralds. Assyrian artifacts in abandoned tunnels. When extremists from the Islamic State terrorist group began taking over territories in Iraq and Syria, they set to work actively destroying ancient sites and artifacts. They went on a rampage and proudly posted videos of their destructive acts on social media. In a strange turn of events, however, they accidentally uncovered a treasure trove of Assyrian artifacts while digging tunnels beneath the streets of Mosul, and for whatever reason, they left the items untouched. Faleh al-Shumari, head of the Antiquities Authority in Mosul, said that Iraqi government officials already knew about the objects beneath the shrine of Nabi Yunus, which was the prophet Jonah, which date back to the 8th century BC. The site is also home to a palace belonging to a Neo-Assyrian king, dating back to the 7th century BC. Archaeologists had gone to excavate on several occasions, but tried to keep their actions hush-hush in the 90s, and then in 2004 and 2005, since funding dried up and there was nowhere safe to put them. So they covered everything back up. The goal was to go back and excavate everything when it was safe to move it to a secure location. Iraqi soldiers then went down into the tunnels and rediscovered the artifacts. Among other things, there were 2 sculptures of the winged bulls of Nineveh and other sculptures of women and walls covered with cuneiform inscriptions. Countless historically valuable artifacts have been found in Iraq, which is considered one of the cradles of civilization. Many Iraqis are proud of the country's rich history and are still trying to recover many artifacts that have been lost or stolen. The Ninja Lantern Shark. With this cool name, the Ninja Lantern Shark does not disappoint. With a jet black color and bulging pale eyes, this deep-sea dweller looks as though it's rocking a Halloween costume. They have a menacing look about them, like they're about to jump out of the shadows, and they're kind of small so they can move a lot faster. In fact, they are only about 18 inches long. These sharks can be vicious and rip into their prey with the ferocity of their larger cousins featured in Jaws. Thankfully, it's rare for them to come into contact with humans. In fact, you wouldn't have to worry about finding yourself face to face with one of these guys anytime soon. And that's because these ninjas don't typically spend time in the shallow end. They usually live about 1,000 feet below the surface, so they are not the typical creatures that scuba divers would find. Found in the deep waters off the coast of Central America, these sharks get their name because of their glowing organs, called photophores. They tend to balance out the habitat they live in, which is usually pitch black, enabling them to move around and sneak up on prey. And while there are other lantern sharks that light up from the inside, these guys are the only ones with a darker skin to camouflage. Atomic scale wires. During a study that involved examining the properties of silver on an atomic scale, researchers from Australia, China, and Japan accidentally developed a wire just 1 atom wide. As part of the experiment, the team put nanoparticles of silver on the outside of tiny rods with channels inside and tested them in regular air instead of a vacuum as they normally would. Queensland University of Technology professor Dimitri Goldberg explained that when we do this in a vacuum or in some inert atmosphere, nothing happens, but they did it in air. So the atoms from silver particles diffused very fast, and they diffused inside the channels. The team expected the silver to react with the air and form silver oxide, but instead the atoms self-organized within the channels, forming 200 atom-thin wires, each one about 1/5 as thick as a human hair. They definitely weren't trying to do this on purpose. The accidental creation opens the doorway for the development of atomic-scale wires, something scientists have been trying to achieve for over 20 years. Additional research shows that the silver nanowires could possibly be used as thermal switches. At a certain temperature, the material became an insulator. This is not common for silver. The next goal is to make the wires even smaller. New natural blue. New colors are actually hard to come by, and natural new colors are crazy rare. The color blue rarely occurs in nature, making naturally occurring blue pigments really difficult to find. In fact, many seemingly blue colors are actually combinations of reds and purples rather than true blue. But a newly discovered cyan blue variation could potentially be used as an alternative to synthetic brilliant blue food dye. Detected by chemists as part of a collaborative project between the University of California, Davis and Mars Wrigley, the color is sourced from red cabbage, which contains water-soluble pigments called anthocyanins. Only a small amount of the vegetable's anthocyanins are blue, prompting the researchers to use specially designed enzymes to turn some of the other anthocyanins into the desired shade. They designed the enzyme with the help of a powerful computer, which sorted through trillions of potential protein sequences to come up with an efficient combination. The resulting cyan blue pigment is reportedly nearly identical to the industry's go-to synthetic dye, known as Brilliant Blue FCF, or E133. Artificial blues have proven problematic, often posing environmental or durability issues. Some, like cobalt blue, even turned out to be toxic, and Prussian blue released cyanide. The new pigment comes not long after scientists at Oregon University accidentally discovered yin min blue, a so-called near-perfect blue pigment, in 2009. It was the first such discovery in 200 years, and came while the researchers were observing the electrical properties of heated manganese oxide, a project that had nothing to do with looking for a pigment. Lost Golden City. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has just announced the discovery of the ruins of what archaeologists call the Lost Golden City of Luxor. Dating back more than 3,000 years, the ancient metropolis was found buried in sand last September. It's the largest ancient Egyptian city ever uncovered, according to archaeologist Zahi Hawass, who led the team that unexpectedly made the discovery while searching for Tutankhamun's mortuary temple. During the dig, the team was surprised to encounter zigzagging mud walls measuring as much as 10 feet tall. Without meaning to, they had found a city that other archaeologists had tried and failed to find. In a statement, archaeologist Betsy Bryan described the site as the most important discovery in Egypt since King Tut's tomb was found in 1922. Speaking with NBC, Hawass said that the Golden City will help researchers better understand life during ancient Egypt's Golden Age. So far, the team has unearthed rings, scarabs, colored pottery, tools, and other artifacts dating back between 1391 and 1353 BC, during the reign of Amenhotep III. The site contains storage houses, grinding stones, and areas for meat production, offering an unprecedented look at everyday life in an industrial Egyptian city. Oddly, the archaeologists found a skeleton with its arms outstretched and a rope around the knees. They have yet to come up with an explanation for the odd burial and have several other lingering questions that they hope to answer through further excavations at the site. Firefly sound signals. While wandering around a tropical rainforest with microphones, gathering data for a study on bats' echolocation, a team unexpectedly detected similar high-frequency sounds coming from fireflies. Bats and fireflies have something in common. Led by Tel Aviv University professor Yossi Yovel, the accidental discovery took the whole study in a new direction. They examined 3 different firefly species that are common in Vietnam and one from Israel. Using high-speed video, they found that the fireflies produce the sound by moving their wings, but the fireflies themselves can't hear this frequency. That doesn't make any sense. But bats eat fireflies, so this sound that the fireflies are making is an evolved warning signal against bats. This ability may serve as additional protection in cases where the firefly's glow fails to deter bats because they can't see very well. It's musical armor. Warning signals that the sender itself cannot detect is well documented for plants, but in animals this is quite rare. The musical battle between bats and fireflies continues. Turtle fossil in church. While searching through the ruins of a church that was destroyed by an earthquake in Christchurch, New Zealand, sculptor Paul Deans happened upon a 35-million-year-old turtle fossil embedded in the core of a limestone pillar. Built between 1881 and 82, the Oxford Terrace Baptist Church sustained extensive damage in the 2011 Canterbury earthquakes. When it was demolished, its pillars were hollowed out for the construction of a new church that opened in 2017. Deans received several pieces of the pillar's cores last year to use in his work, leading him to the rather unexpected discovery. Dr. Paul Schofield, senior curator of natural history at the Canterbury Museum, noticed that the unnamed ancient turtle species resembles another turtle fossil that a builder found while quarrying limestone in Oamaru in 1880. He concluded that both fossils were likely extracted from the same quarry and may contain parts of the same animal. That would be a coincidence. Schofield said that turtle fossils are really rare in New Zealand. No similar turtle fossils have been found in Oamaru in more than 150 years of quarrying there. It's amazing that this new fossil was sitting inside a pillar for 130 years. It could have been lost forever. Scientists will study the newly discovered piece and will examine microfossils surrounding the turtle to determine if the 2 fossils are from the same animal, as they suspect. That would be quite the find. Schofield speculates that the prehistoric species was a sea turtle similar in size to the modern-day leatherback turtle, which grows up to 7.2 feet long. It lived during the Oligocene period, which lasted from 65.5 million to 23 million years ago, when New Zealand was covered in shallow seawater. Hidden frescoes. A few years ago, Tufts University professor Christina Maranci discovered hidden centuries-old artwork at the Mren Cathedral, a historic church in Western Armenia. While hiding from local police inside the church during her investigation of off-limits archaeological sites, she suspected that there was something beneath the plaster on the walls. Moranci snapped photos with her camera and used Photoshop to enhance the obscured features, visually restoring parts of the hidden frescoes and inscriptions that are invisible to the naked eye, including an ox in the church's apse. She believes the image is an early 11th century depiction of the biblical figure Ezekiel with an ox, lion, man, and angel, the symbols of the four evangelists Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But Moranci also admitted that her speculation is inconclusive for now, and that more investigating needs to be done to confirm the fresco's age and meaning. The keen-eyed researcher said she was not particularly interested in frescoes when she made the discovery, but that the finding prompted her to start investigating other old churches for similar historical features. And while she credits imaging software that anyone could use for drawing out the concealed artwork, Moranci noticed the importance of someone having knowledge of what they are looking for. She continues to investigate her findings and hopes to overcome several obstacles surrounding the discovery, including a lack of experts and governmental red tape that prevents researchers from legally exploring valuable historical sites in the region. She wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. Medieval tunnel. Earlier this year, electrical workers discovered a mysterious network of medieval tunnels beneath a 12th century abbey in Wales. They were digging a hole for a new power line pole in a customer's backyard. Situated along a brook, the tunnel system is just 4 feet tall, and there is no record of it being built. Archaeologists who investigated the site do not know what the tunnels were used for or how extensive the network is. They were a complete secret. It does not appear on any maps created by the UK's mapping agency, which dates back to the 18th century, so the power company had full permission to dig at an archaeological site because nobody knew that it existed. They got quite the surprise. It's possible that the tunnels are connected to nearby Tintern Abbey, a national icon of Wales that was built in 1131. The abbey fell into ruin after King Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century, which would explain the tunnel's absence in historical records. Alan Gore, a technician who participated in the discovery, said that he has been involved in other excavations where they have discovered old wells and cellars not shown on any plans, but nothing as exciting and impressive as this. The electrical work was rerouted, and archaeologists plan to thoroughly excavate the secret tunnels in hopes of uncovering their secrets. Ancient fish. While studying sediment cores collected from Norwegian coastal lakes, a group of geologists found the remarkably well-preserved bones of an ancient 3-spine stickleback fish. After the ice sheets melted at the end of the last ice age, coastlines throughout the northern hemisphere experienced an uplift, creating inland lakes that effectively cut the species off from the ocean. The recently discovered fish lived in brackish waters around 12,000 years ago, a time when the lake it was found in was nearly, but not completely, disconnected from the sea. A new study reveals that stickleback populations in separate places evolved to survive in their new freshwater environments, experiencing similar changes in their behavior, function, and appearance, a phenomenon known as parallel evolution. Scientists typically rely on modern-day freshwater and marine species as models for learning about parallel evolution. The rare opportunity to study these types of changes in ancient species eliminates some of the guesswork that comes with differentiating modern evolutionary traits from those experienced by ancestral populations. For the study, scientists extracted DNA from 2 prehistoric stickleback fish and compared the results against modern specimens. A researcher explained that although these bones belong to sticklebacks that died thousands of years ago, when most of Scandinavia was still covered by a giant ice sheet, they still contain fragments of DNA. These genetic sequences provide us with a window into the past and to the early stages of when fish began to adapt to fresh water. In this case, the stickleback fish already contained genetic variants that made them adaptive to fresh water. These findings are helping experts to better learn the ways evolution occurs over thousands or even tens of thousands of years, helping to fill in the gaps in evolutionary timelines. Thanks for watching! Which discovery was your favorite? What do you want to learn more about? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. See you later! Bye!